Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Crystal and this is Books Forever After, where I sit on the floor and we talk about everything and all things books. Today we are talking about my recent reads. Kind of recent reads. Maybe a little bit. A little longer. Sort of recent reads. June's recent, right? It's a little recent. Yeah. Let's go with that. Okay. So today we're talking about my recent reads from June and July, and I do have August and September. I am so behind on my wrap-ups or, you know, just my recent book reviews. So we're just gonna, you know, not talk about it. Life happened. Okay, so as always, I will have timestamps down below by the name of the book, so if you want to skip ahead or to a book that you want to hear about, feel free to do so. You won't hurt my feelings. I will also be going through a breakdown of June 1st and then July books that I read, just because I need order. I can't, that's how my brain, I have to group it by the way I read the book. So that's just how my brain is. So that's what we're doing. Okay. The first book I read in June was A Lady by Midnight by Tessa Dare. I rated this a 4-star. I read this as an ebook on Libby, and this is actually part of the Tessa Dare summer read-along, so yeah, it's been a while. That was co-hosted by Rachel Reads and Sings, B from Mama Needs to Read Romance, Ava from Ava Romance Reads, and I believe Tiff from Tiff Talk Pages. So I will link their channels down below, so that way you can go and check them out. And yeah, so A Lady by Midnight. This was, oh gosh, it was part of the Spindle Cove series. This was book 3 in that series, and this follows Kate, who is a music teacher, and Thorn, who is the commander of the militia that is stationed there. This features a hidden identity and a childhood friends to lovers. This is where a family, the discovered family comes to, Spindle Cove. They find that Kate looks exactly like a woman in this portrait. And it kind of goes from there, and it has a little bit of that whole hidden identity, a little bit like Cinderella-esque, a little bit in that aspect. And then we also have Thorn, who he's a very protective kind of hero. He knows her from long ago from their childhood. She does not recognize him, and he protected her. She doesn't know, but he protected her during from their childhood. He was just her protector at where her mom worked as a burlesque type salon, as a prostitute there. So I really enjoyed this one. It has been a couple of months for me to remember. It wasn't my favorite of the Tessa Dares that I read, but I did really enjoy it, so that's why I rated it a 4-star. Next, I read Beauty and the Blacksmith by Tessa Dare, part of that read-along again, and I rated that one a 3-star. This is a novella in the Spindle Cove series, and this features Diana, which is the sister from Minerva and Colin's book, and features Diana, a blacksmith called Aaron Davies. And and this one I actually listened to on an audiobook on Libby. I actually wasn't going to read this one because I really don't like novellas, and I usually don't ever rate them above a 3, so that's kind of usually I find myself doing. I haven't read too many novellas. I haven't really enjoyed too many novellas, and I think because it's just I want more. I don't think it gives enough time to flesh out characters, unless it's very extra, like this in the series, extra information of characters. But it was sweet and everything. I just didn't really, it's not my favorite, but I did like it. Next, I read Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes, which is not a romance, which went totally outside of my comfort zone than I normally do. I don't know why. I just was feeling something sci-fi, but like a little bit of like thriller in that aspect. And I'm not usually a fan of thrillers either. I usually like happy, romance books. The only sad thing I will do is usually where it's a very angsty or emotional romance book, or like a dark romance or dark fantasy. But other than that, I like, I can't really do, especially like horror, like gore kind of stuff, like that kind of thing. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. I rated this a 4-star. It's a Titanic meets Ghost Ship in space. So if you remember that movie Ghost Ship, it's basically like that. It really is. And the twist at the end, it kind of was, that's why I wasn't a 5-star. I was like, really? Like it all comes to that. But it really closely follows Ghost Ship, except for certain aspects. But and it's also, there actually is still kind of like a little bit of a romance side plot in there. Wasn't exactly, it still didn't fit exactly for me, but the descriptions was really awesome. I think the best way to read this is the audiobook, and I didn't even physically read it, obviously. I listened to it on the audiobook, but the narrator was great. Just great voices for the different characters, and when it was spooky, I was just on the edge of my seat. So really great audiobook if you're into like a sci-fi thriller. I would definitely recommend that one. Then I read House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. That was 5-star. So that is book 1 of Crescent City. As we all know, I think we're all really familiar with this one. I read this as a physical book that I own. And this is an urban fantasy. So it's Sarah J. Maas's first urban fantasy. This follows Bryce, Quinlan, and Hunter Athalar. Hunter is like an angel. And Bryce is like half fae or something like that, we believe. I don't say too much more than that, but it's very, really interesting. I will say in the beginning, the premise, it kind of follows Bryce and her friend. I can't think of her name, but her friend is, something happens, it's kind of like a mystery most of the time. So that's why I think if I probably reread it, I don't know. I think really with 5-star really saved it was the ending for me. The last like 100 pages was just really Sarah J. SJM's like MO with me. But it felt kind of slower. I didn't enjoy the journey as much as Throne of Glass, or specifically ACOTAR. I think ACOTAR is still my favorite of hers. But it was still worth it because she does that whole slow build aspect to it. I think part of it was the time jumps was a little different. I really didn't like the main Bryce that much in the beginning. Because she comes across as like a party girl. Her and her friend, just that whole aspect of it. You really kind of felt like we were just, and maybe that's part of my whole thing is like, you're just thrown right into the world and you gotta have to figure it out what's going on and learning more about the world that way. But still very, very good. The romance between Bryce and Hunter, there's no really spice in this book, just so you know. It's kind of hinted at, but there's maybe a kiss scene. I think that's really it. There isn't really much. I think the only reason why it's so far, I haven't read book 2, which I'm hoping to read book 2 next month, which when you're watching this, I'm hoping to read it in November. I keep on pushing it off to each every month. But I just didn't really believe their romance a little bit. I don't really feel their chemistry, I want to say. So that's been a little bit lacking. So I'm hoping that can grow a little bit. I just felt also that the author's voice still felt, compared to ACOTAR, felt a little bit disconnected. Like her voice kind of, when you feel like you're removed while reading it, it kind of felt like that. And I think it's because she did switch to second person. I forget what she started doing in A Court of Silver Flames, and that one kind of worked for me. It wasn't my favorite still, but it worked for me there. I think this one, that's where it kind of fell off. But I'm still going to read book 2. I'm still going to I have pre-ordered book 3. That's releasing in January. I am a little bit PO'd at the author. Maybe the author. I don't know if the author is the culprit, but at the publishing, just the way they handled this whole release of book 3 with the pre-order with the 5 different copies for different bonus content at the end, and then it was also kind of spoilery. That kind of ruined it for me a little bit, so I'm a little bit spoiled already from what I've seen, what's going to be happening, and also, yeah, so that whole part kind of like spoils it. So they, like, when they announced it, they just totally made a major spoiler of a major thing, like plot point. So it's kind of almost ruined for me a little bit, but at the same time, I'm just gonna go in and just pretend I don't know. I mean, with Akatar, I kind of heard about like Reese or something with wings, and I knew like maybe he was it. But I kept away from social media, so I heard the name. You know, the names didn't mean anything to me. It's like, oh, so Reese is kind of, there's some drama with them and that kind of thing. So I don't know, but yeah, I'm kind of, they're on my shit list. Okay, that's what it is. The publisher is on my shit list for now. Bloomsbury, why did you do that? But yeah, so I'm a little salty about it. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. After that, I read Any Duchess Will Do as part of the summer Testadea read along. I rated that with 5 stars. That was my favorite of the whole read along. It was so beautiful. It was such a My Fair Lady vibes. So good. And the man, I don't remember their names, it's been way too long. But the connection to the mailman character, his relationship with his mother was just so, like, I don't know, so beautiful. And the relationship with, and what you learn about the hero, it's just like, oh, you know, he's such an ass at the beginning. He was an ass in the previous book. And just what you learn about, it's just, I don't know, it was something so funny. I don't know how Testadea does it, but she makes me laugh. She makes me want to cry. She makes me swoon with these characters and just the hijinks and everything. But it's just beautiful. I really enjoyed it. So this follows kind of like a My Fair Lady. She is I want to say like a barmaid or something in the tavern there in Spindle Cove. And he's a duke, and his mom, she kind of like kidnaps him a little bit. Not really kidnaps, but like, you know, I think she does like kidnap, like drugs him or something. I don't know what she does, but she like gets a drug or something and like goes in a carriage. She drives him to Spindle Cove, and they arrive at the tavern, and she goes there to tell him that he needs to pick a bride. He's like, pick a bride, any bride you see, I will turn them into a duchess. Just pick a bride, you need to get married. And so just to make his mom angry and, you know, be sorry, you know, oh gosh, it was just a smart ass. He picks the barmaid as, you know, to kind of get back at her with that. So it's a very My Fair Lady vibes, and I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend. It's probably gonna be one of my favorites of the year for that. Next, I read Parallel, that is by Elizabeth O'Rourke. I read this on Kindle Limited, and I didn't like it. I rated it a 2 star. I'm so sorry, B. I'm so sorry, B. I didn't like it. I know everyone loves this book. I heard, I just didn't like it. I love time travel books. I think this is almost novella lengthy series. I think this might just be amazing because apparently it's not, people like it. I think for me it was the writing. Like, I didn't like I just couldn't connect with the author's writing. Like, it didn't work for me, and I pushed through. So because I pushed through and I didn't DNF, I almost did. It's a 2-star. So I didn't like it, and I'm not going to continue on. Unfortunately, I think part of it with this parallel is kind of like, I don't even know what the synopsis is to tell you right now, but she time travels. Basically, she finds herself basically time traveling into like an alternate person of herself, and she has this dream about this man, and then what ends up happening is one time, and there's a cost to this traveling that it causes headaches and her to black out, and one time when she blacks out, she wakes up in the hospital and there is this man that she's been dreaming about, and he's the doctor. So it kind of starts from there. I just didn't like it. I felt way too, I guess, insta-lusty. I don't even know. It felt too grandiose, like too big for britches kind of a thing. I don't know if that's a catchphrase, but it felt too unbelievable, I guess, is the thing for me. So yeah, I didn't like that one. Next, the 7th book that I read in June is I read King of Wrath by Anna Wong. Again, I didn't have a winner. That was a 2 stars. And again, unpopular opinion, I didn't like it. And I know everyone loves this series. I don't know. Again, the author's writing didn't work for me. I read this as a physical book. I actually owned it and purchased it. I have since unhauled it, as you saw the previous book haul, but I just did not like this one. I made it through, no, actually it's a 1 star. I DNF'd this. I made it through 63% of this book. Like, I tried my hardest. But at that point, I just couldn't take it anymore. It came across very, what I do like is that they're older characters, so they felt more believable that way. This is an arranged marriage. So the male characters, billionaire. Female characters from a very well-off family as well. And they're kind of arranged to marry because her dad kind of like coerces or blackmails the guy to blackmails him to marry, to put this arranged marriage on. And so he first off just hates the harem because he thinks she knows about her dad and that whole thing, but she doesn't. I think what did it for me was it felt like maybe it is kind of mafia, I don't know, it felt way too unbelievable. I really didn't like the hero. There was this jewelry robbery scene and it felt way too extreme, and then that was the point where he started feeling like very possessive and attractive for her, and like dude, you just met. Like, I don't even know, guys. I don't know. I really didn't like it. And I love billionaire romances. I know this is a popular author, and maybe it was the wrong time. But I hear such good things about King of Greed, and that's a second chance, because I love second chances, especially marriage and trouble ones. So, and that's what that's supposed to be. So maybe I might try King of Greed sometime soon. I definitely don't want to try it right now, because I probably, I don't know, be turned off of it right now. But I wanted to like it so bad. It felt like it was right up my alley. Everyone loves it, or that I find on YouTube, but I just didn't. I just didn't like it. So yeah, that was a dud. Moving right along. So in July, I read 12 books, and these next ones we're gonna try to be a little more snappy. So I read Romancing the Duke by Tessa Dare. That was 4 stars. I read that physically. That was, I can't even tell you. That was 4 stars. But I did like it. The next I read A Ship of Bones and Teeth by Karina Halley. That was because of April's influence. She was reading a lot of these like pirate romances and such in July, and like a whole this whole theme of read along there. So, and it was a very brand new release, and I was like, okay, why not? Well, it's a 5 stars, and I actually loved it. The Goodreads. It's actually part of my vampire recommendations, and I'll put that as my video there down below. But it basically is a Little Mermaid retelling crossed with like Pirates of the Caribbean. And this is where, you know, the Prince Eric is not such a good guy. You know, she does the whole, becomes a human. 10 years later, she's married to him. She's been married to him for 10 years, and he is just, he's abusive. He's not a nice guy. So things ensue from there, where they're kind of on the ship and captured and things like that. And there are vampires in here, but I don't want to kind of, it'll be a spoiler on how it comes about, but there are vampiric influences in this book. Let's just say. Okay. But yeah, I loved it. This is why April, I always love her recommendations. It worked. That one worked for me. So definitely what I needed. Next, I read Crave by Tracy Wolff. I read that at 4 stars. I read that physically and on audiobook. I do own the physical copy, and I just borrowed the audiobook from, I believe, Libby or Anyplay. I believe it was Anyplay. But anyway, this is like a YA fantasy romance series. It's really inspired by Twilight, you can tell. But yeah, it's has also an academy aspect as well, and this girl is an orphan. Her parents have died, and she has to go to her uncle as a guardian, and where she's, you know, staying in Alaska with her cousin, and her uncle is like the headmaster of that school. And for the longest while she's there, she meets an interesting guy. He's got that whole angry enemy, doesn't like her kind of thing. But throughout this whole thing, she's just going, everyone's in on it, and unknowingly trying to hide from her that this is basically a magical school. There's werewolves, there's vampires, there's witches. Oh gosh, there's other things I can't even think of right now. I think sirens, maybe. I don't even know. There's a lot other kind of like shifters things as well. So yeah, so it's just that whole kind of magical aspect. I believe this is like a 6-book series. I think I own 5 of the books actually. So I'm hoping to read Crush book 2 here soon. I was hoping to read it this month. I don't know if I'll get to it, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm interested in seeing how book 2 goes. It definitely feels a little bit more younger YA, a little bit, just because with the immaturity level, like, you know, 16, the slang and all that kind of a thing. So if that becomes too annoying, I don't know if I will continue. But because it was still very fun to read, it was just really fast and consumable, that's why I kept with it. So, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. So I read The Anti-Hero by Sarah Cates. I read this as an e-arc by the author. I am on her ARC team. As you know, if you followed me at any sort of capacity, I primarily read historical and fantasy romance, and just some fantasy, and then loads of splash of contemporary romance. So this is the splash. So there's certain authors that I do really enjoy their writing, and I always try to read whenever they publish. So they're like an auto-buy author in that aspect. So this one is The Anti-Hero. So this was her first one before the final book in the Salacious Players Club, which is Madam just released. So that's book 6. This one is like the start of like a spin-off series, or maybe like a sister series. I'm not sure. It's hinting at maybe there might be a crossover. I don't know. But anyway, so The Anti-Hero. This follows Adam and Sage into their revenge plot against Adam's father and Sage's ex-boyfriend, which quickly transforms into an exploration into kink, self-discovery, and religious trauma recovery. So Adam Good, it's a name, He was always the good son to his evangelical pastor father. However, when he discovers his father's dirty, hypocritical secret, he battles with his self-identity and how he has shaped his life to fit his father's mold. Not only that, but realizing the parent you looked up to is not a good person in any shape or form. Sage couldn't be any more different than Adam, with her pink hair, tattoos, and piercings. She helps run a sex club with her boyfriend, but then one morning, Sage and Adam, they meet at a diner and end up chatting and having breakfast together. They meet again the same night that Adam discovers his father is a VIP member at the sex club where Sage works. So Sage ends up proposing that they get their revenge by fake dating. And to go one step further, by making sex tapes and posting them on an app. Soon they're on a discovery of kinks and making quite a lot of tongues wag and, make a big stir. So to me, nobody rebels quite like a pastor's son, and I really enjoyed the start of this new series. And as a wife of a pastor's son myself, it was really interesting to see my real life kind of relationship trope shown on the page. There are a few similarities. Okay? Just a little bit. All joking aside. I think this was a good start to this new series by Sarah Kate, and she is one of my fave authors. And I loved how this age gap was actually like with adults, not like with an 18 and 40-year-old. So don't get me wrong, I do enjoy those ones. It just depends on the maturity of the female character for me. However, it also was really refreshing to have this kind of an age gap. But with that said, there didn't seem to be enough balance between the spite and smut versus the relationship kind of dynamic of the romance between Adam and Sage. So it just didn't feel like it balanced well. And that's what you kind of need in an erotic romance where the sex is part of the plot. So for me, it felt more like they were just falling into lust, not necessarily falling into love. So I didn't really feel believable that they were like in love, that they were going to stay together. And combined with the logistics of how they made most of the videos, after they already had a one-night stand, it kind of felt like you can't go soft after going hard. I don't know. There's a saying, once you go hard, you can't go back and take a step back and try to go soft. So I don't know. There's a saying like that. It just didn't fit. And then also the pacing in the book just felt off. And to me, it felt quite a leap from fake dating to just immediately doing sex tapes. It was just felt a little bit hard to suspend my disbelief. I think if maybe the videos evolved from them fake dating instead of instantly, I don't know, like after they're fake dating for a while, it just felt like they instantly decided to just start doing sex tapes. There also felt like something didn't quite fit with the third act conflict that happens at the end with his father. It felt way too extreme for what his father did. And then especially for Adam to even entertain the idea, let alone speak to his father after that. Like really. It didn't fit, and I'm just like why? Those were like the only points that didn't work for me. I still rated a 4-star, because I did enjoy it while I was reading it. And I do look forward to her next book in this series, but yeah, that's it. The tropes in this one is, the tropes in this one is pastor-son, fake dating, revenge, age gap, which is 37 versus 27, so there's only a 10-year age gap, BDSM, and a sex club. And the content warning that you need to be aware of is violence against women, child abuse, and abuse. Next, I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I majority read that in an audiobook, and I kind of tandem read that one as well, where you read the physical book or immersive reading, where you read the physical book and listen to audiobook. But I think I primarily switched to audiobook. I highly recommend this one as an audiobook, that's for sure. I did initially rate this one as a 5-star, but I ended up rating this a 4-star. So this one is Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It's a historical fiction. It's not a romance. I don't know. It's not a romance. So my first one reading by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I know she's really popular in the booktube space. I liked it. It's okay. I think the only reason why I would rate it a 4-star is because of the audiobook. The narrator was really great. And the reason why I bumped it down from a 5-star to 4-star initially, I'm like, once I thought about the ending and how everything kind of mapped out, it kind of just like, why? What was the point? And I just didn't feel, and maybe I didn't like the Hollywood heroine who this is based off of. So this is kind of like it seems kind of like Elizabeth Taylor inspired kind of a thing, the actress, telling her like tell all story, and she specifically only wants to tell her story to this one kind of rookie journalist at this magazine. And so she tells her story and everything like that, but I just didn't feel like, I don't know, like I said, I like happy things. And it had an impact. I just think part of it was, I just wish it showed more of to what it was showing and the meaning of the story. I just wish it actually focused on the positives of that relationship and her life. Which at the same time, I know that she's not meant to be a nice character. You're not meant to like her, the main character. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm rambling at this point, but yeah, that's just how that one is. Next, I reread A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. That was a 4-star still for me. I reread that physically. That is a Hades and Persephone's retelling, and I was rereading that so I could read from Hades' perspective, which was A Game of Fate, and I rated that one a 4-star as well. I actually think I liked his perspective even better, but that was, I don't know, maybe they're kind of similar. I don't know. I like getting to see the different dual POVs, so I just wish that the books were already dual POV. I didn't have to read the same book twice. That's really my pet peeve. Is like, I don't want to read the same book twice. I'm like, really? Okay. But yeah, I read that as the ebook from the Libby app from my library. Then I read Say Yes to the Marquess by Tessa Dare. That was part of the Castle Ever After series. I rated that a 4-star. That was also part of the read-along, Tessa Dare read-along. And I borrowed that as an ebook from the library. And then I also read When a Scot Ties a Knot by Tessa Dare. And that's also from the Castle Ever After, and I read that one a 4-star. I can't remember exactly the premise of these. I did like the Say Yes to the Marquess. I think that was where the heroine is a bigger size heroine, which I wish the heroine actually showed that on the cover. I didn't enjoy that one as much as the other ones because it felt very fat shaming in that one, I would say. So it was fun and happy. When a Scot Ties a Knot, that was fun. I enjoyed the fact that they're writing this one and they're writing letters. And she makes up this suitor to kind of get out of having to go to balls and, you know, going onto the marriage mart. So she makes up like, oh, I already met my intended. And for years she keeps this up until one day he shows up because she had killed him off and that whole thing, like, oh, he died and that whole thing, mourning and everything. But when she inherits this castle, which is what this whole, like, the Castles Ever After is about, is she inherits a castle and then he ends up coming to claim himself there, and because he also wants the castle and that whole thing, but he just comes to stake his claim and that whole thing. So that was kind of funny and I really enjoyed that. I did like the fact that she was like a blue stocking heroine. She was very into scientific, like I think with animals and the whole thing, like anthropology maybe. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, it was really fun to see. And then I read Do You Want to Start a Scandal by Tessa Dare. That was Spittle Co. number 5, and it's also like Castles Ever After number 4. I read that a 5-star. I really enjoyed that one. That had the espionage spy guy, and they accidentally overhear someone getting naughty, and what ends up happening though, because they're both hiding in the library, people think it's him. So funny. The spy person man, what he's called, he was from the Say Yes to Marquess one. He was the brother that woman was engaged to. So yeah, that was fun. So I liked him a lot better. I liked the fact that you had to delve deeper to know him a little bit, and that's what I like about that as well, is when a hero, that's why I think I like gothic novels, think like Jane Eyre, where the hero, there's just something mysterious about the hero that you have to kind of learn more. Really enjoyed that. And then I have 3 more here. Then I read The Letter from Briarton Park. That was from Sarah E. Ladd. That was 2 stars. So that was The House of Yorkshire. It's a standalone in a series. I read that one because I did receive book 2, which I'll show there too on the screen, as a giveaway from Goodreads. So I still have to read that one. But I thought I needed to read the first one, and I wanted to read the first one, but I didn't need to. This one is very... premise of this one promised of like a Jane Eyre meets Jane Austen writing, and that's what kind of pulled me in, but it didn't deliver. So the premise was really intriguing. That makes me funny, but it really didn't deliver. The writing just felt stilted, very dry, and it felt very telling versus showing. And keep in mind, this is also a proper closed-door romance, so if you are looking for a closed-door romance author, Sarah E. Ladd is a great one to look into. This one just didn't work for me. I am interested in trying book 2, because that one was supposed to be a persuasion kind of like inspired retelling one. So yeah, this one has, so this is like a proper closed-door historical romance with a suspense mystery plot. But in reality, it felt more like historical fiction with the mystery plot, and the romance kind of thrown in a little bit. Like, there wasn't enough romance. It wasn't believable. Felt no chemistry between the 2 characters. So you're just like, I almost felt like, just get rid of the romance and make it historical fiction at this point. That's kind of what it is for me. If you can't deliver on the romance, don't even attempt it. That's kind of like where it felt to me on that. That make him like a cross harsh, but that's kind of my expectations with us going in for historical romance, being a part of those vibes of Jane Austen, which is with a slight mystery plot. It felt like the reverse. It was like it's kind of riding the coattails of saying it's like Jane Austen, but it wasn't. So I'm hoping book 2 is different. That's all I have to say for that one. But yeah, it felt very like it was an afterthought. Yeah, and to be honest, it was just boring. I I was bored as all I'll get out. It was so boring. And I did check this one as a physical book from the library, so I checked that one out. So I did not purchase that one or anything. So, but yeah, 2 stars. I don't necessarily recommend this one, but if you like more of a mystery plot element to it, maybe you might like it. To me, it just depends on the author's writing. So I'm gonna try book 2, In the Shelter of Hollythorn House. So I'm hoping that one, which I did like the cover of the second one, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, see, this one, the second one, has 4.13 rating, so that one might be better. The first one I read was 3.86, but I might be, maybe I'm just the outlier, I don't know. Next, I read A Loving Scoundrel by Johanna Lindsey. This was 5-star. This was part of the Mallory Anderson series that I am co-hosted with April for Happily Ever April. This one is a reread, and I loved it before, and I loved it again. It was just so good. This follows Danny, who is kind of like a street urchin. She one day she finds herself in the alley, hiding with her nurse with a head wound, and what ends up happening is her nurse passes away, and another girl who's part of this street gang discovers her and, you know, takes her in, and she has her kind of helps her by having her dressed as a boy, so that way she didn't have to end up having to become prostitute on the street and forced to make the living, because you either have to steal, pickpocket, or if you're a girl, you're more likely to be subjected to having to sell your body to make the money for the group. So very Industrial Revolution kind of like sort of feeling there for that one. But then what ends up happening for her, she finds she ends up trying to steal from the hero Jeremy, and then he kind of forces her to steal for him on another thing, but it ends up that person that she's stealing from, there's more to the story for that, so they end up finding out that the person that she's stealing from, they discover something a little bit more involved that ties to her past. So it's very, very interesting. I loved it. I think part of it's like I love Danny the character. She's hilarious. The romance was fun too as well. A very quick read. I think really the banter back and forth what sold me. There's not my favorite romance between 2 characters, but the banter between the people in the house was fun. I really love this one too because the Mallorys didn't make as much of overtaking the plot as me and April have found for this series, but I really, really enjoyed it. Still 5 stars. I do recommend, if you like the Mallory Anderson series, I think that one is probably my favorite so far, next to Gentle Rogue as well, which is more on the pirate romance side. And then lastly, I read The Royals Next Door. I read this as a physical book. I own this. I got this actually from a library sale. So I wanted to read more of Karina Halley, and I showed up with the teeth with my first one, and I kind of want to see what else she has. It seems like she has quite a bit of, like, she writes everything. So you may not like a particular genre that she wrote, but you could just find another one by her and you might like it. Like, it's really, really amazing how she's able to write like that. And this was summertime, so I was in the mood for a little bit of a contemporary rom-com fun thing, and I usually try to at least read one a year like that. I think last year was On Honeymooners, which didn't work for me, but The Royals Next Door, I enjoyed it. I think I rated it a 4-star. It was fun. What I liked about it is the heroine is she's a podcaster for romance. She is a romance reviewer, so that was really fun to see. But this kind of follows like a bodyguard romance, where the bodyguard is like the bodyguard for royals. To think kind of, it's very hinted at like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle kind of a thing, which was really fun. And they kind of like weirdly become friends and the whole thing, and it was fun. It is also spicy. There's a little bit of spiciness in it. But yeah, it was just a fun read, and if that's what you're looking for, I recommend it. It's a little bit older as well. I think it was published in 2020, so that's like only 3 years, not really that old. I may be wrong, I don't know exactly when it was published, but it was a fun read. Will I read it again? I probably won't, and I might unhaul that book because I know I won't want to read it again, but it was still a fun time, and I would recommend it. Yeah, so 4 stars. Alright, that is it. This is a very long video. I have a lot of editing to do. But with that said, thank you for watching. Like I said, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below if any of these that you've enjoyed as well, or one that you would similarly recommend to me. I don't know, whatever you like. Whatever you would like. And if you don't feel like commenting and just want to let me know that you're here, please go ahead and comment down below a sunflower. How about that? Sunflower. Alright. That is it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.